Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Daily Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me again today, as he does most Wednesdays, Dan Wass. Dan's the author of the Good Gun, Bad Guy series. He's also got the internet radio show, The Loaded Mic, and he's a lot of places around the internet. Dan, thanks for joining me again today, man.
Oh, excellent. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me. I always love doing this show.
So, one thing I wanted to bring about to start with today, first of all, we'll get to this in a little bit, but Sleepy Joe had another speech today, and apparently he's got all kinds of things he wants to push gun control wise. But I wanted to bring this up first. One of my cohorts, John Richardson, who's worked with me for a very long time over on the Polite Society podcast, he posted this today over on his blog, and I'm going to go ahead and put this up on the screen. And did David Shipman say blacks cheated to pass the promotion exam? When Shipman was the special agent in charge of the Detroit field office, it was being alleged that another special agent heard him to make disparaging remarks about the number of African Americans who passed the BATFE promotion exam to be ASACs. That agent then filed a complaint with the EEOC, and apparently, and scrolling down, that was just kind of swept under the rug. Specifically, John goes on to write that when Shipman was asked by Senator Ted Cruz about any EEOC reports, he responded that there had been two. He went on to add that they had been resolved without finding any finding of discrimination. And there has been a lawsuit filed by the American Accountability Foundation against BATFE for a FOIA disclosure about this, so we can find out the full extent of this. We were talking, Dan, before we went to the show. This really is this surprising a little bit? It seems like it would be somewhat in character for somebody like Shipman to me.
Well, did we actually read the quote? Wasn't there a quote about him surprised that black people passed the test and assuming that they cheated to do it?
Yeah.
Wasn't
his quote is, "Wow, there were an unusually large number of African American agents that passed the exam this time. They must have been cheating." That was Shipman's quote.
You know, it's not only disturbing that people like Shipman, primarily people on the left, Democrats, have such a low opinion of black people, but what's really scary is that so many black people don't recognize it, and they don't see how the Democrat Party uses them, and the idea that Shipman would say something like this, as if black people aren't as intelligent as others, and how could they pass this test? That to me, I've seen tons of that stuff coming from the left. Unfortunately, we don't see it in the mainstream media. This quote is really important, and I hope a lot of people really get to see it, because it's very demeaning. And it really shows what Shipman's all about.
Absolutely. D. Clar on Facebook says, so black peoples are assumed not to be smart enough to pass an exam? Well, according to Shipman, I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer myself. So I'm not going to say if one person or another is. I know a lot of people that are smarter than me. I take people at what tests they pass, but that's what's attributed to Shipman. I report the news, I don't, and I do some speculation on it. I'm not going to say that one or more people should or shouldn't be able to pass a test.
This is what we get from the left, and this is common. This happens all the time. This type of behavior happens all the time, but the media covers it up, and Democrat voters continue to vote for these people. The anti-gun crowd is right in there with them, so they will do everything they can to get Shipman in. And it's just, if they really cared about the way our country functions, and if they really cared about the founding principles of our country, they would think twice, but they don't. I think primarily people on the leftists, I'll use the word leftist, I think primarily they really just want to tear down our beautiful form of government, our experiment in individual freedom, and the way out in our country, we the people theoretically are supposed to have leverage over the government. They want to tear all that down. They want, it's clear they want communism, and they don't appreciate minority groups at all. They use them for votes, and unfortunately, some people go along with it. So, what can you do except try to expose it?
I wonder if it's not a little bit of, so he's racist. He's for gun control. That's what he wants. Let's just,
Could be.
Yeah,
well, that's the thing. They are willing to compromise their own values, if they have any values, because they flip-flop on their values so much. Whereas conservatives, we're strong on our values. We know what we want, and we stick to it. And sometimes we pay a price for that, but they don't. They just flip-flop, and they'll do whatever the party says in order to sit at the popular table. They've set up the Democrat Party, and they set up the left wing as the popular table. At least the media helps create that imagery, and people will do anything they have to get a seat. And it's sad, but that's where we are.
Yeah, absolutely. So apparently Biden gave a talk today. I didn't get to see it.
I didn't see it yet either. I'm not looking forward to it. I mean, I have to watch it, but I kind of I'm going to be forced to watch it. But I already know. We know what Biden is going to be saying. He's going to be using. I'm going to make a prediction. Now, I haven't seen this. I'll bet you he uses the term gun violence 100 times in his speech, right? Okay, so let's start there. We know, I got a list here of all the stuff that he wants. He wants red flag laws. They all want the red flag laws because they want people to be able to turn in their fellow neighbors and their family members and friends. That helps. That's part of this whole thing, to get people to turn on other people. They want universal background checks because they come with a registry. We all know universal background checks are dangerous because they violate the rights of good people, do nothing to stop crime, and the rate of false positives is over 99%. In other words, of all the denials, over 99% of them are false positives. Did you want to say something?
I was just I'm gonna go try to find it here. Give me just a second. There was a story
and I have
that
some
came out that there were I just about got it here. 300,000 blocked gun sales last year, but of those 300,000 blocked gun sales, there were 12 prosecutions.
Yeah, I'll give you numbers from 2017 because those are ones that I've researched, and the numbers from 2017 from the Government Accountability Office had a number of 112,090 denials, 112,090 denials, and 12,000 investigations. So right off the bat, they knew that the vast majority of those denials were false positives. So
9 out of 10, top of the head math. Yeah.
Yeah, so they did 12,000 investigations. Of the 12,000 investigations, there were only 12 prosecutions. In other words, only 12 people who shouldn't have been buying a gun were attempting to buy a gun. These false positives are for any reason. Similar social security number, similar name, similar address, all sorts of ways you can get caught up in the false positive. So, out of 112,090 denials in 2017, there were only 12 actual people who shouldn't have been buying a gun. And if these were killers, the left goes, oh, see, we stopped 12 killers, 12 mass shooters. But if they were actually killers, wouldn't they be in jail? So these are also crimes that sometimes
not
are
in the age
not.
of COVID, dude. They let everybody out of jail in the age of COVID.
Well, that's true too. But a lot of these crimes, a lot of these legitimate denials are because of restraining orders. Husband and wife may be split up. Restraining orders happen. People put restraining orders on each other, and that's a reason to get denied. So terrible. Now you say the 300 this last year. I believe it. I absolutely believe it. I haven't seen that study yet.
300 out of how many millions? There was, I want to say, 6 million brand new gun owners, and there were 300 prosecutions. That's a lopsided number right there.
300,000. There were 300,000 denials.
Yes.
Yeah, but only 12 actual prosecutions. In other words, only 12 of those. So in other words, it makes my point. Over 99%
yes
plus were false positives. In other words, putting good people in danger and restricting the right of good people. 300, in this case, 300,000 people were denied for no good reason. That's not okay. Because the bad guys, the real killers, the ones that really want to hurt people, they're laughing at these background checks. These background checks are designed and created for us, the good guys.
Honestly, if a bad guy wants a gun, they're going to steal one. They're going to go to their this is going to sound really bad, and I'm going to lose a few viewers, but they're going to get a new girlfriend. They're going to go to the girlfriend. They're going to say, "Hey baby, do you love me? Do you want to do
purchase?
I need you to do something for me, sweetheart. You love me, don't you? I need you to go to the gun store and buy me this." And girlfriend, because she's all in love with her new boyfriend, is going to do it for her. And
they're also professional straw purchasers.
Yes,
there are people who will do that for money, and that's a one way that a lot of bad guys will get guns.
There were a few, if I'm remembering right, there were like 2 Miami police officers that were busted in a ring that were taking guns from Florida up to New York City about a month ago, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, well, also gun shops tend to be robbed a lot. Believe it or not, gun shops will get robbed. And that's another way that a lot of these guys will get guns. And there's a lot of community guns in some of these inner cities. In other words, guns that are used by several different people and hidden around the city in garbage cans or dumpsters or wherever. And so there's a lot of bad guys with guns that pay no attention at all to background checks. So the background checks are useless when it comes to really trying to solve the problem of violence. And that's what they're saying they want to do, is solve the problem of violence. They really don't. They really want to restrict good people from owning guns because, let's face it, Paul, we are the opposition to the communist left. Yes. And they want to put us out of business. They want to put America out of business. So who better to restrict the gun ownership than us?
I've fallen way behind on comments. I want to get some in here quick. Going back to the Biden talk, Cheryl said that Biden read from the teleprompter, and John Lutine said he sounded tired. His speech was too long for him. He must have talked, 30 seconds? I don't know. I think that's...
I was going to say 5 minutes.
Let's let's see here.
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised. I think it was Cheryl that said that. I'm not surprised he read from a teleprompter. I'm actually surprised he can even read from a teleprompter. Most of the time, he can't even do that. So this is ridiculous. Watching Joe Biden as quote president, it's absolutely ridiculous. This should be a sitcom because he doesn't belong there. He didn't earn it, and he's doing a horrible job. The guy can barely tie his shoes. I wouldn't be surprised if he's got the Velcro shoes, but that's, I don't understand how people on the left can believe that he is a legitimate president.
There are political cartoonists that are just missing the boat. I wish I could draw, because what the political cartoonists need to do is to show Biden with somebody's hand up his back and,
Yeah. Exactly.
With good old Kamala with her hand up his back, and yep. John says he sounded tired. Well, yeah, he's like 1 billion years old and he's got dementia, so yeah.
There you go.
John mentioned in a comment when we were talking about gang members, there are girls who are gang members too. Yeah, I'm sure there are. I gotta say, I'm not big into gang culture myself. I don't fit in there, obviously, but yeah, I would not surprise me that there are female members of gangs. I think we're going back to the Biden speech. They were talking race hate. That would kind of surprise me a little bit.
Well, they're creating racism. That's the thing with this critical race theory. What they're really doing is creating racism where it doesn't exist. They're taking this philosophy of oppressed and oppressors, and they're bringing it into schools. Little kids who don't know anything about this stuff, who are being taught this stuff. Now, if you just let kids naturally grow and communicate with other kids, they naturally gravitate toward each other. Color doesn't matter. But what happens is they're creating this racism among children now. That's why across the country, and I just saw another guy, and I'm sure people have seen it now on social media, there's a guy who totally tears apart this school board. And it's starting to get really good because real Americans, parents of children, are starting to fight back against this racism that the Democrats are trying to perpetrate, trying to perpetuate, and trying to create in our society where it doesn't even exist.
Yeah, I would absolutely totally agree with you. I want to get one more comment in here. D again says, hell, the bad guys are stealing guns out of cars that have been left there by good law-abiding citizens. If they want one, they'll get it, no matter what. I want to go off on that a little bit, D, and you're right. But it's our responsibility as the good guys to make it as hard as possible for the bad guys to get our guns. So, if you live in a state where you can concealed carry, wear the damn thing. Don't leave it in your car. And if you are... I'm gonna let out a secret here. If you have an NRA sticker on your car, if you have a Second Amendment Foundation sticker on your car, that sticker says to all bad guys, look, if you break into this car, there's a chance there may be a gun in here. I do not have any stickers on my car simply because I don't want my car broken into. Not because I park at bad places or I'm not against the NRA. I'm certainly for the SAF. But I do not put those things on my car because I don't want my car broken into. And when I'm out and about, my gun is on my hip, not ever, ever, ever left in my car.
Yeah, and let me, if you don't mind, Paul, let me add to that. In defense of the people, I totally agree with you. Make sure that we know where our firearms are at all times.
Yes.
But in defense of some of those people who might be forced into the position of leaving their gun in their car, when you live in a blue state, New York, Jersey, California, Connecticut, Massachusetts, wherever, it tends to be very difficult when you're going about your day and you need to go into
Post office.
Federal building, post office, whatever. So in defense of our fellow gun owners, I understand it can be very difficult, and there are times when we try to follow the law because we don't want to get in any trouble, yet we're put in a very tough situation where we can't bring our firearm into a certain location, and we don't want to leave it in the car. So what do? It's a tough spot sometimes. So
yeah, I 100%. I understand, and thank goodness South Dakota, where I live, is a constitutional carry state, and so for me it's a lot easier than for places like New York, where if you are able to get a concealed carry permit and you have to go to the post office, man, I feel for you. It can be extremely, I understand it would be extremely difficult. But yeah, I would say, as responsible gun owners, and I myself, I've gravitated away from saying law-abiding gun owner, because although I do abide by the laws, if the Biden administration gets their way and starts outlawing guns, before long I won't be a law-abiding gun owner. I'll be a responsible gun owner. And so that's what I'm using now. As responsible gun owners, it is part of our responsibility is to make it as hard as possible for the bad guys to get our guns. And I can tell you right now,
point.
A bad guy will not get a hold of one of my guns as long as I am still exchanging oxygen for carbon dioxide and I have a choice in the matter. So, where are we at?
I'm sure in Biden's speech he wanted to talk about the semi-automatic bans as well. So,
Okay.
The so-called assault weapon bans that they did back in '94. I'm sure you remember Dianne Feinstein holding up that AR-15 saying, "We got to ban these assault weapons." Oh my God!
Oh my God!
And then,
yes.
And then 10 years later, it sunsetted because it proved to do nothing to stop violence. And now somehow, of course, Democrats want to try it again because this time it'll be different. They're not going to get their semi-automatic rifle ban because we're going to fight them to the death. It's not literally. Let me be clear. We're going to fight them on this legislatively. And that's what I mean. Yeah. So, but that's what they want. And also ammo tax and limits on how much ammo you can buy, because that way they can create a funnel. They can create a stranglehold on gun owners, because if they can limit the ammo that we can purchase, they limit how often we go to the range. They limit how they shut down the sporting industry. They limit the way parents teach their kids, because now parents aren't taking their kids to the range, and the next generation will grow up to be non-gun owners. So limiting ammo is something that we have to be very careful. We have to watch very carefully.
One thing, I'm not connected directly to the very highest echelons where the decisions about lawsuits are made. One thing I wish a lawsuit would be filed on, and I think we have to wait until the ammo taxes are actually law for that to happen, because it already came out a long time ago where poll taxes are illegal. It's your right to vote, and they cannot tax you to perform that right. I would think that would directly equate to taxes on ammunition. It's a right for you to keep and bear arms, and if you tax ammunition, I think that would equate directly to a poll tax. I'm not a lawyer, and I certainly don't play one on television.
I wonder how that, if that's true, I wonder how that would affect purchase limits. In other words, you can only buy one box of 50 rounds per month or whatever it is. I wonder if that same thing would apply, because that's what I'm concerned with. Because I already see, as we see this shortage of ammo, I already see a lack of training, a lack of people going to the range, and so it's already a little bit concerning. Just with COVID, if there was actually legislation that said you could only buy so many rounds, then we're in real trouble. That's one thing that I think we need to, like I said, we really need to push back on that stuff.
I totally agree. We need to. One thing I would remind everybody, because we are just about to the bottom of the hour, everybody this week especially, be calling your senators. Area code 202-221-3121. Let them know that, because David Shipman, is my understanding, is going to be up in committee on Thursday, possibly moving to the floor of the Senate on Friday, and David Shipman is up, and he is the wrong person to lead the BATFE. After you've called Washington, D.C., call your local offices in your state for both of your senators. Remind your senators that you expect them to vote against Shipman, whether they're in the committee, the Justice Committee in the Senate, or whether it comes to the floor. You expect them to vote no. Doesn't matter what, if it's a D or R or I behind their name. I would love you to call your senator, even if you live in California, even if you live in Illinois. Call your senator at all the numbers they have available and let them know you want them to stand for you and vote against Shipman. Let's see. I think, yeah, we're at 28 after. Dan, is there anything else we need to be covering today, man?
I think anything else, if we got into anything else, I would love to talk about Colorado and the bills that they're passing, but I think it's going to take too much time since we're kind of out of time. So I would just say, let's be very hypersensitive to red flag laws, the background checks and potential registries, any kind of firearm bans, again, ammo tax and limit on purchase, and always be aware that the term they use, gun violence, there's no such thing as gun violence. Every time they're talking about gun violence, what they're really talking about is human violence, usually and most often caused by failed Democrat policies, defunding the police, open borders, sanctuary cities, gun-free zones, all that stuff.
And they even more specifically than that, gang violence is what they're seeing.
Gang violence, yes. And you could take any 4 or 5 cities, Democrat-run, highly gun-restricted cities, and you can account for about 25% of the gun-related crime. So they like those numbers. Those numbers help them. Yes. So Democrats will never stop that. They'll never want the people to be able to defend themselves, because then the gun-related death numbers go down, and they need those numbers high as possible to push for more gun regulations. And the truth is, your chances of being killed by a gun are minuscule, but your chances of being the victim of a violent attack of other sorts is about 1 in 300. So, but they need those numbers of gun-related deaths as high as possible to justify more gun regulation.
Yep. All right. Well, I think that does it. We're just coming down to the very bottom of the hour right now. Dan, thanks again. On our way out, could you please plug your books, let people know how they can get Good Gun, Bad Guy series?
Thanks so much, Paul. I appreciate it. Good Gun, Bad Guy. Here's the first book. Good Gun, Bad Guy is the first series. This is 1 in 3. 1 in 3 series. Talk about the anti-gun crowd, how they think, how we can better understand them so we can either help them or defeat them. Talk about the politics behind the gun grabs, and talk about the media's involvement and how they so easily manipulate the public. So it's goodgunbadguy.com, And you can check out my show, my web show at loadedmic.com. Loadedmic, M-I-C.com. So thanks, Paul.
You're very welcome. Everybody, please do keep tuning in 5 p.m. Central Time every day. We're going to be doing these daily bullets Monday through Friday. Thanks for watching, and we will see you again tomorrow.